Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Friday the 12th, May 2023. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. Now, I get very disappointed. Well, it's tough. This tough stuff right here. The United Kingdom is sending something called the Storm Shadow to Ukraine. They're a long-range cruise missile. This is a picture of it right here. Now, what you need to know is the backstory on all this. So I'm going to get into it right now. We're going to take a look. Here's a picture of Ukraine. Okay, so now you guys know, unless you've been hiding under a cave in a cave someplace, you guys know there's a war going on in Ukraine right now. And this red area right here, now Ukraine is highlighted in yellow on the map right here, but this red area right here to the east side of Ukraine, including this little island down on the bottom is highlighted in red. That little island is called Crimea. Crimea, the Crimean Peninsula, it's called. Right? It's not really an island; it's a peninsula, but it's almost an island. And that's the primary way that Russia ships weapons into Ukraine is through Crimea. There's a bridge there that they ship the weapons across. Weapons and ammunition and everything else they need to fight the war in Russia, they comes across that bridge in Crimea. And then there's this little area up here on the east side of Ukraine where these are annexed territories. These are territories that Russia has claimed for their own. Not long ago they did contested referendums. These referendums are contested by the West, but not contested by Russians themselves. And they annexed these regions, 4 regions in Ukraine on the eastern side here, marked in red. This large territory, the larger of the 2 red territories, is these annexed regions. And they come under now, whether the West agrees with it or not, the Russians conclude that these are Russian territories now. This is what the Russians conclude. Now this is contested. In other words, the West does not agree with this. The Russians agree with it, but the West doesn't. But nevertheless, why this is important in all of this has to do with these missiles. Number one, this bridge in Crimea. The Russians will not tolerate certain things. One is attacks on these territories that they've claimed now, and also Crimea. They're very, very protective over Crimea. That they claimed, I say they claimed because it's contested again. Well, in 2014, Russians came into Crimea and they took over Crimea. So they consider this Russian territory, what's in red. But like I say, it's contested. This is not accepted by Ukraine, not accepted by the West, but accepted by Russia. So now, if we go back and we take a look at this missile, what do we know about this missile? Let's read on here about the Storm Shadow. It says here that the missile is capable of Mach 0.8, so it's very, very fast. The engine, it says right here, under characteristics, it says the engine has a range of approximately 560 kilometers or 350 miles, and it states that very clearly. So it can go 350 miles into enemy territory. When we're talking about this missile, now just above my head, there's a picture of it, what it looks like. It's got little wings on it. It's got a little scram engine, jet engine on it, and it's able to go very fast, almost Mach 1. So very, very fast indeed. The United Kingdom is the ones who's sending these missiles. Let me see. Let me click on here. It says UK sends Storm Shadow long-range cruise missiles to Ukraine. Now, what they list on here, I noticed, it says critically, the Storm Shadow is significantly further than the U.S. supplied HIMARS. The UK manufacturer touts a range of 250 kilometers or 155 miles. So why am I getting this discrepancy here? It said the UK manufacturer touts a range of 155 miles, and over here when I read on Wikipedia about this missile, it says it has a range of 350 miles. That's a big difference. So what about that? Okay, so I'm not gonna argue over that, because I can't verify which one's correct. Does it go 150 miles or does it go 350 miles? I don't know. Just wanted to point that out. But nevertheless, it goes a long way. It can go deep inside enemy territory. It can go halfway to Moscow, for crying out loud. And we're not talking about some little drone that's flying in that's carrying a very small amount of explosives, kind of like what we seen happen there a week or so ago in the Kremlin when this little drone come flying in and it just went pop, you know. It's just like, this thing is a cruise missile. This thing carries a big heavy payload and an immense power of explosion power with it. So this cruise missile. So this is a big game changer for the war as far as I'm concerned. Now that they're sending long-range cruise missiles to Ukraine, this is a big, huge game changer, because now they can fly deep inside Russia or deep inside Russian-held territory. And I see this as something that's just absolutely going to infuriate the Russians. This is my opinion on it. You know, if the Ukrainians decide to use these missiles in ways that would infuriate the Russians, what would be the response? Not exactly sure, but I can tell you one thing. I'm not exactly sure what the response of the Russians would be, but I can tell you one thing. It wouldn't be a good retaliatory response. And in my mind, I'm kind of thinking maybe mushroom cloud? I don't know. I mean, we're talking, things are getting heated up a few notches with these new cruise missiles being sent to Ukraine. This is in my mind, this is a big game changer in the war. You know, for the Ukrainians, of course, but at the same time, you're dealing with a nuclear superpower. And so, well, you just got to understand this really fully. You just kind of switch sides. Say the United States was at war with Cuba, you know, sort of thing, and say some country was going to send Cuba cruise missiles that could reach Washington or halfway to Washington, and say they launched one of those cruise missiles and say it flew and it blew up Atlanta. I mean, this is the capability. I'm not saying that's what they're going to do with them. I'm just saying it gives them that capability, the Ukrainians, to attack deep inside Russian territory. And how far attack inside Russian territory? Well, that's debatable. According to here, it says 155 miles inside Russian territory. And according to this website, right here on Wikipedia, it says the engine has a range of approximately 350 miles. So 350 miles, if we take a look at this map, you know, I mean, they're right up against Russia's territory right there. And so if you can go 350 miles east inside Russian, this is the capability. I'm not saying this is what they're going to do. I'm just saying this gives them that capability. Okay? And so any attack on actual homeland or the motherland of Russia, the Russians have already said that if they consider an attack on the homeland or on their what they have as integral to them, this is a kind of a trigger for them to go into massive escalation. Well, they already have escalated a lot in this war. So I'm not going to talk about this any longer about this. I'm not going to harp on about it, but this is a major escalation in my mind. Sending Russia these is probably just as big an escalation as maybe sending them something else that would be very powerful and potent. Maybe, I don't know, Okay. What does it say here? It says Ukraine would collapse in days without the West's military supplies. So, I mean, this is kind of a no-brainer, you know. I mean, if, like soldiers, if you go back in time, you know, like hundreds of years ago, soldiers just had horses and they had bayonets and they had simple, very simple weapons. But nowadays, with the complex weapon systems that we have, if you give them to people, a complex laser-guided what's-it, you know, I mean, all they got to do is pull the trigger and they can blow airplanes out of and everything, you know. I mean, they have this kind of technology now, so it's all about the weapons now, not so much about how many soldiers you got. That's meaningless. You can have 1 million soldiers all grouped in an area ready to attack, and one tactical nuclear weapon can take them all out. I mean, we're living in modern warfare now, not the days of the cavalry back in the days when they had horses and fighting off the back of horses and stuff. This is a modern era, and weapons have changed things, changed the face of war. So of course, you give somebody high-tech weapons, of course they're going to be able to win. So this is a no-brainer right here. It says Ukraine would collapse in days without the West military supplies. Yeah, they'd run out of ammo. That's a no-brainer. Anyway, let's take a look at the price of silver today. We're down 26 cents. We've really got busted the last couple days, silver and gold. Really busted. $23.89 right now. Boy, they're creating a good buying opportunity. It might get a little bit better buying opportunity yet. But you guys got to realize what's on the other side of this, because we're coming into a very, very soon, guys. We're coming into a place where everything's going to start to melt down on the Fed. The banking system's already done it. It's started to melt down. But now the real estate market's going to start to melt down. Commercial real estate's going to start to melt down. The junk bond market's going to start to melt down. The banking system is already melting down. It's only going to get a lot worse. The stock markets are going to start melting down. Everything's going to start melting down on them, and then they're going to have to put a stop to that. Otherwise, the whole system will melt down. And so they're going to have to put a stop to it. Right now, this credit squeeze is already drying up lending, and this is the primary method which money is created. So money's going to start disappearing from the system, and the next thing you know, the bankruptcies are going to start flowing in. And then they're going to have to put a stop to it. So just like we saw interest rates go up, interest rates can go back down again. And just like we saw an end to quantitative easing can start again. And just like we saw an end to all of the stimmy checks and everything, well, it can start again under new social programs and stuff. But what does that mean for the dollar? Well, they don't care. This is their only way out anyway, and they know it. The only way out ultimately is to inflate their way out of this problem. But right now, just for a limited time only, we're living in a world where the Fed is tightening. It means less dollars in the system. It means a drying up of liquidity. It means dollars can buy more. So you're getting your chance here to convert these dollars before they start to become worthless. While they still can buy something, you got your chance. Get in there and take advantage of it. You know, that's what I say. Because your friends and neighbors probably won't, and they'll be crying about it. They'll be talking about it for the next 20 years, how they should have done this and they should have done that, and how they lost everything. Just like the people cried back in 1929, 1930 when the Great Depression hit. They were crying, they were saying, oh, I had everything invested in the stock market, and I had all kinds of leverage. I had margin on everything, and I lost it all. Oh boy, did they do some crying after the stock market crash in 1929. Some people weren't just crying, they were jumping out of windows because they lost it all and they had everything. Rich, suddenly not rich anymore. It's all on what side of the trade you're on. What side of the trade do you guys want to be on? Do you really believe that they can print endless amounts of dollars and have the dollar worth more and more? Sooner or later, it's going to go back to gold and silver. You know, that's where it's going to have to go. Okay, so Bitcoin today, 26,375. And Ethereum at 1770. So the air is coming out of this a little bit right now. Taking a look at the Dow Jones today. It's down 44 points at 33,265. And taking a look at oil today, it's up 57 cents at 71.44 today. Now, taking a look at bonds and rates today. What we're seeing is climbing yields today all the way across the board. Look at that 1 month. 5.7. Isn't that juicy? You know, it's really nice, getting nice and fat. Ready for harvesting. You guys, look, there's going to be people hopping in on stuff like that. You know, I mean, they're going to get 5.7%. That's good. For yield right now, there's no yield on anything right now. It's hard. People are chasing yield, and there's a bit of yield. They're going to start jumping on stuff like that. But, I mean, take a look all the way out to the 30 year. So you want to buy for 30 years, you're going to only get 3.75. And if you want to get for 1 month, you're going to get 5.71. So you want to talk about an inversion? This is completely out of sync. This entire yield curve is completely out of sync right now. It's all inverted, an inverted yield curve, which is a sign of when it's this bad, and it's been this bad for this long, it's screaming, not for screaming recession, it's screaming depression coming. Okay, taking a look at the US dollar index at 102.43 today, and the dollar's going up. No surprise to me, the dollar's going up. Even against these crappy other currencies, the dollar's going up, and it's going up because of what everything the Fed's doing with their tightening programs and stuff. Otherwise, this dollar right now would be down around 70 or something. But if it was compared against gold or silver, it'd be a big fat zero. I mean, if it was compared against something that's going to go in the opposite direction. I mean, why don't they compare, instead of comparing it against these other crappy currencies, why don't they compare it against something that's got some strength to it or something? I don't know. Silly the way they do things. But the whole financial system's twisted right now. Twisted and silly. All of it. And none of it's functioning properly. It's not a free market anymore. These are controlled markets. Thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe. We'll catch you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.